Fêng-Hsien raids Hsüch. The last chapter closed with the arrival of Lai Yue, who shouted out falsely that the army was that of the two arch-rebels Lai and Kuo come to capture the imperial cavalcade. But Yang Feng recognized the voice of Lai Yue and bade Hsüch go out to fight him. He went, and in the first bout the traitor fell. His men scattered and the travelers got safely through Chiquen. Here the prefect, Chang Yang, supplied them plentifully with food and other necessaries and escorted the emperor to TsʻAo. For his timely help the emperor conferred upon Chang Yang the rank of a Ta-Su-Ma, or president, and he went and camped at Yewang. Luoyang was presently entered. Within the walls all was destruction. The palaces and halls had been burned. The streets were overgrown with grass and brambles and obstructed by heaps of ruins. The palaces and courts were represented by broken roofs and toppling walls. A small palace, however, was soon built, and therein the officers of court presented their congratulations, standing in the open air among thorn bushes and brambles. The reign style was changed from Hsing to Chinan, firm tranquility. The year was a year of grievous famine. The Luoyang people, even reduced in numbers as they were to a few hundreds, had not enough to eat, and they prowled about stripping the bark off trees and grubbing up the roots of plants to satisfy their starving hunger. Officers of the government of all but the highest ranks went out into the country to gather fuel. Many people lay down and died quietly behind the ruined walls of their houses. At no time during the decadence of Han did misery press harder than at this period. A poem written in pity for the sufferings of that time says, "Mortally wounded, the serpent poured forth his life-blood at Mantang. Blood-red pennons of war waved then in every quarter. Chieftain with chieftain strove and raided each other's borders. Midst the turmoil and strife the kingship even was threatened. Wickedness stalks in a country when the king is a weakling. Brigandage always is rife. When a dynasty's failing, had one a heart of iron, wholly devoid of feeling, yet would one surely grieve at the sight of such desolation." The Taiyu Yang Pio memorialized the throne, saying, "The decree issued to me some time ago has never been acted upon. Now TsʻAo is very strong in Shantung, and it would be well to associate him in the government that he might support the ruling house." The emperor replied, "There was no need to refer to the matter again. Send a messenger when you will." So the decree went forth, and a messenger bore it into Shantung. Now when TsʻAo had heard that the court had returned to Luoyang, he called together his advisers to consult. Hsüch laid the matter before him and the council thus: Of old Duke Wen supported Prince Fêng-Hsien of the Chu dynasty, and all the feudal lords backed him. The founder of the Hans won the popular favor by wearing mourning for the Emperor Ai, who never really sat on the throne. Now, the emperor has been a fugitive on the dusty roads. To take the lead in offering an army to restore him to honor is to have an unrivaled opportunity to win universal regard. But you must act quickly or someone will get in before you. TsʻAo understood and at once prepared his army to move. Just at this moment, an imperial messenger was announced with the very command he wanted, and he immediately set out. At Luoyang everything was desolate. The walls had fallen, and there were no means of rebuilding them, while rumors and reports of the coming of Lai and Kuo kept up a state of constant anxiety. The frightened emperor spoke with Yang Feng, saying, "What can be done? There is no answer from Shantung, and our enemies are near." Then Yang Feng and Han Hsien said, "We, your ministers, will fight to the death for you." Tung Hsiang said, "The fortifications are weak and our military resources small, so that we cannot hope for victory, and what does defeat mean? I see nothing better to propose than a move into Shantung." The emperor agreed to this, and the journey began without further preparation. There being few horses, the officers of the court had to march afoot. Hardly a bowshot outside the gate they saw a thick cloud of dust out of which came all the clash and clamor of an advancing army. The emperor and his consort were dumb with fear. Then appeared a horseman. He was the messenger returning from Shantung. He rode up to the chariot, made an obeisance, and said, "General TsʻAo, as commanded, is coming with all the military force of Shantung, but hearing that Lai and Quo had again approached the capital, he has sent Hsüch in advance. With him are many capable leaders and 5 legions of proved soldiers. They will guard your majesty." All fear was swept away. Soon after Hsüch and his staff arrived, and they were presented to the emperor, who graciously addressed them. Then one came to say a large army was approaching from the east, and at the emperor's command, Hsüch went to ascertain who these were. He soon returned saying they were TsʻAo's infantry. In a short time TsʻAo Hung and his officers came to the chariot, and their names having been duly communicated, the chief said, "When my brother heard of the approach of the rebels, he feared that the advance guard he had sent might be too weak, so he sent me to march quickly and reinforce him." "General TsʻAo is indeed a trusty servant," said the emperor. Orders were given to advance, the escort leading. By and by scouts came to say that the rebels were coming up very quickly. The emperor bade Hsüch divide his force into 2 parts to oppose them, whereupon the armies threw out 2 wings with cavalry in front and foot behind. They attacked with vigor and beat off the rebels with great loss. Then they begged the emperor to return to Luoyang, and Hsüch guarded the city. Soon TsʻAo came with his great army, and having got them duly camped, he went into the city to audience. He knelt at the foot of the steps, but was called up hither to stand beside the emperor and be thanked. TsʻAo replied, "Having been the recipient of great bounty, thy servant owes the state much gratitude. The measure of evil of the 2 rebels is full. I have a score of legions of good soldiers to oppose them, and they are fully equal to securing the safety of your majesty and the throne. The preservation of the state sacrifice is the matter of real moment." High honors were conferred on TsʻAo. The 2 rebels wished to attack TsʻAo's army while fatigued from its long march, but their advisor Hsüch opposed this, saying there was no hope of victory. In fact, he advised submission. Lai Tsui was angry at the suggestion, saying that the advisor wished to dishearten the army and drew his sword on Chia. But the other officers interceded and saved him. That same night, Chia stole out of the camp and, quite alone, took his way home to his native village. Soon the rebels decided to offer battle. TsʻAo sent out in reply a small company of horse with 3 warriors as leaders. These dashed into the rebels' army but quickly retired. This maneuver was repeated, and again repeated before the real battle array was formed. Then Lai Hsien and Lai P, nephews of Lai Tsui, rode out. At once from TsʻAo's side dashed out Hsüch and cut down the former. Lai P was so startled that he fell out of the saddle. He too was slain. The victor rode back to his own side with the 2 heads. When he offered them to the chief, TsʻAo patted him on the back, crying, "You are really my Fêng-Hsien, preserver." Next a general move forward was made, Hsüch and TsʻAo leading the 2 wings and TsʻAo in the center. They advanced to the roll of the drum. The The rebels fell back before them and presently fled. They were pursued, TsʻAo himself leading, sword in hand. Many were killed and many more surrendered. The two leaders went west, flying in panic like dogs from a falling house. Having no place of refuge, they took to the hills and hid among the brushwood. The army returned and camped again near the city. Then Yang Fêng and Fêng-Hsien said one to another, "This TsʻAo has done a great service, and he will be the man in power. There will be no place for us." So they represented to the emperor that they wished to pursue the rebels, and under this excuse withdrew and camped at Taoyang. One day the emperor sent to summon TsʻAo to audience. The messenger was called in. TsʻAo noticed that he looked remarkably well, and could not understand it, seeing that everyone else looked hungry and famine-stricken. So he said, "You look plump and well, sir. How do you manage it?" "Only this. I have lived maigre for 30 years. TsʻAo nodded. "What office do you hold?" "I am a graduate. I had an office under Yuan Shao, but came here when the emperor returned. Now I am one of the secretaries. I am a native of TsʻAo called Tung-Kao." TsʻAo got up from his place and crossed over, saying, "I have heard of you. How happy I am to meet you." Then wine was brought into the tent, and Hsüch was called in and introduced. While they were talking, a man came in to report that a party was moving eastward. Orders were given to find out whose men these were, but the visitor knew at once. "They are old leaders under the rebels, Yang Fêng and the White Wave General Han. They are running off because you have come, illustrious sir." "Do they mistrust me?" said TsʻAo. "They are not worthy of your attention. They are a poor lot." "What of this departure of Lai and Kuo? Tigers without claws, birds without wings will not escape you very long. They are not worth thinking about." TsʻAo saw that he and his guest had much in common, so he began to talk of affairs of state. Said Tung-Kao, "You, illustrious sir, with your noble army have swept away rebellion and have become the mainstay of the throne, an achievement worthy of the 5 chieftains. But the officials will look at it in very different ways and not all favorably to you. I think you would not be wise to remain here, and I advise a change of capital to Hsüch in Honan. However, it must be remembered that the restoration of the capital has been published far and wide, and the attention of all the people is concentrated on Luoyang, hoping for a period of rest and tranquility. Another move will displease many. However, the performance of extraordinary service may mean the acquisition of extraordinary merit. It is for you to decide." "Exactly my own inclination," said TsʻAo, seizing his guest's hand. "But are there not dangers? Yang Fêng at Taoyang and the court officials. That is easily managed. Write to Yang and set his mind at rest. Say plainly that there is no food in the capital here, and so you are going to another place where there is, and where there is no danger of scarcity. When the higher officials hear it, they will approve." TsʻAo had now decided, and as his guest took leave, he seized his hands once more, saying, "All my success I shall only owe to you." Tung-Kao thanked and left. Thereafter TsʻAo and his advisers secretly discussed the change of capital. Now as to that, a certain official named Wang Lai, who was a student of astrology, said to one Liu Ai, "I have been studying the stars. Since last spring Venus has been nearing the guard star in the neighborhood of the measure, and the cowherd 5 crossing the river of heaven. 6 Mars has been retrograding and came into conjunction with Venus in the gate of heaven. 7 so that metal and fire are mingled. Thence must emerge a new ruler. The aura of the hands is exhausted and Qin and Y must increase." A secret memorial was presented to the Emperor Hsüch, saying, "The mandate of heaven has its course, and the 5 elements are out of proportion. Earth is attacking fire, and the successor to the Empire of Han is in Y." TsʻAo heard of these sayings and memorials and sent a man to the astrologer to say, "Your loyalty is well known, but the ways of heaven are past finding out. The less said the better." Hsüch, the advisor, expounded the meaning thus: "The virtue of Han was fire, your element is earth. Hsüch is under the influence of earth, and so your fortune depends on getting there. Fire can overcome earth, as earth can multiply wood. Tung Ko and the astrologer agree, and you have only to bide your time." So TsʻAo made up his mind. Next day at court he said, "The capital is deserted and cannot be restored, nor can it be supplied easily with food. Hsüch is a noble city, standing close to a fruitful district. It is everything that a capital should be. I venture to request that the court move thither." The emperor dared not oppose, and the officials were too overawed to have any independent opinion, so they chose a day to set out. TsʻAo commanded the escort, and the officials all followed. When they had traveled a few stages, they saw before them a high mound, and from behind this there arose the beating of drums. Then Yang and Han came out and barred the way. In front of all stood Hsüch, who shouted, TsʻAo is stealing away the emperor." TsʻAo rode out and took a good look at this man. He seemed a fine fellow, and in his secret soul TsʻAo greatly admired him, although he was an enemy. Then he ordered Hsüch to go and fight him. The combat was axe against broadsword, and the two men fought more than 100 bouts without advantage to either side. TsʻAo then beat the gongs and drew off his men. In the camp a council was called. TsʻAo said, "The two rebels themselves need not be discussed, but Hsüch is a fine captain, and I was unwilling to use any great force against him. I want to win him over to our side." An officer, Mêng-Tê, replied, "Do not let that trouble you. I will have a word with him. I shall disguise myself as a soldier this evening and steal over to the enemy's camp to talk to him. I shall incline his heart toward you." That night Mêng-Tê, duly disguised, got over to the other side and made his way to the tent of Hsüch, who sat there by the light of a candle. He was still wearing his coat of mail. Suddenly, Hsüch ran out in front and saluted, saying, "You have been well since we parted, old friend." Hsüch jumped up in surprise, gazed into the face of the speaker a long time, and presently said, "What? You are Mêng-Tê of Shenyang. What are you doing here?" "I am an officer in General TsʻAo's army. Seeing my old friend out in front of the army today, I wanted to say a word to him. So I took the risk of stealing in this evening, and here I am." Hsüch invited him in, and they sat down. Then said Mêng-Tê, "There are very few as bold as you on the earth. Why then do you serve such as your present chiefs? My master is the most prominent man in the world, a man who delights in wise men and appreciates soldiers, as everyone knows. Your valor today won his entire admiration, and so he took care that the attack was not vigorous enough to sacrifice you. Now he has sent me to invite you to join him. Will you not leave darkness for light and help him in his magnificent task?" Hsüch sat a long time pondering over the offer. Then he said, with a sigh, "I know my masters are doomed to failure, but I have followed their fortunes a long time and do not like to leave them. But you know the prudent bird selects its tree, and the wise servant chooses his master. When one meets a worthy master and lets him go, one is a fool. I am willing to do what you say," said Hsüch, rising. "Why not put these two to death as an introductory gift?" said Man. "It is very wrong for a servant to slay his master. I will not do that." "True, you are really a good man." Then Hsüch, taking only a few horsemen of his own men with him, left that night and deserted to TsʻAo. Soon someone took the news to Yang Fêng, who, at the head of a strong company of horsemen, set out to capture the deserter. He called out to him to come back. But when Yang was getting near, he fell into an ambush. Suddenly, the whole mountainside was lit up with torches, and out sprang TsʻAo's men, he himself being in command. "I have been waiting here a long time. Do not run away," cried he. Yang Fêng was completely surprised and tried to draw off, but was quickly surrounded. His colleague came to his rescue, and a confused battle began. Yang Fêng succeeded in escaping, while TsʻAo kept up the attack on the disordered army. A great number of the rebels gave in, and the leaders found they had too few men left to maintain their independence, so they betook themselves to Hsüch. When TsʻAo returned to camp, the newly surrendered man was presented and well received. Then again the cavalcade set out for the new capital. In due time they reached it, and they built palaces and halls and an ancestral temple and an altar, terraces and public offices. The walls were repaired, storehouses built, and all put in order. Then came the rewards for TsʻAo's adherents. 13 were raised to rank of Hu or Marquis. All good service was rewarded. Certain others again, who deserved it, were punished, all according to TsʻAo's sole decision. He himself was made a generalissimo and Marquis of Wupping. The advisors became presidents of boards and filled such offices. Mao Qi and Jern Hsüch were put over the military stores. Tung Kao was made magistrate of Luoyang and Man Cheng of Hsüch. All good service received full recognition. TsʻAo was then the one man of the court. All memorials went first to him and were then submitted to the throne. When state matters were in order, a great banquet was given in his private quarters to all TsʻAo's advisors, and affairs outside the capital were the subject of discussion. Then TsʻAo said, "Liu Pei has his army at Hsüch, and he carries on the administration of the prefecture." Lu Pu fled to him when defeated, and Pei gave him Hsüch to live in. If these two agreed to join forces and attack, my position would be most serious. What precautions can be taken? Then rose Hsüch, saying, "Give me 5 legions, and I will give the minister both their heads." Hsüch said, "O leader, you are brave, but you are no strategist. You cannot start sudden war just as the capital has been changed. However, there is a certain ruse known as the rival tigers. Liu Pei has no decree authorizing him to govern the district. You, illustrious sir, can procure one for him, and when sending it and so conferring upon him right in addition to his might, you can enclose a private note telling him to get rid of Lu Pu. If he does, then he will have lost a vigorous warrior from his side, and he could be dealt with as occasion serve. Should he fail, then Lu Pu will slay him. This is the rival tiger ruse. They wrangle and bite each other." TsʻAo agreed that this was a good plan, so he memorialized for the formal appointment, which he sent to Liu Pei. Pei was created general conqueror of the East, and a marquis as well. At the same time, a private note was enclosed. When Liu Pei heard of the change of capital, he began to prepare a congratulatory address. In the midst of this, an imperial messenger was announced, and was met with all ceremony outside the gate. When the epistle had been reverently received, a banquet was prepared for the messenger. The messenger said, "This decree was obtained for you by the minister TsʻAo." Yuan-Ter thanked him. Then the messenger drew forth his secret letter. When he had read this, Liu Pei said, "This matter can be easily arranged." The banquet over, and the messenger conducted to his lodging to seek repose. Yuan-Ter, before going to rest, called in his counselors to consider the letter. "There need be no compunction about putting him to death," said Chang Fei. "He is a bad man. But he came to me for protection in his weakness. How can I put him to death? That would be immoral," said Liu Pei. "If he was a good man, it would be difficult," replied Fei. Liu Pei would not consent. Next day, when Lu Pu came to offer congratulations, he was received as usual. He said, "I have come to felicitate you on the receipt of the imperial bounty." Liu Pei thanked him in due form, but then he saw Chang Fei draw his sword and come up the hall as if to slay Lu Pu. He hastily interfered and stopped him. Lu Pu was surprised and said, "Why do you wish to slay me, I tear? TsʻAo says you are immoral and tells my brother to kill you," shouted Chang Fei. Liu Pei shouted again and again to him to go away, and he led Lu Pu into the private apartments out of the way. Then he told him the whole story and showed him the secret letter. He wept as he finished reading. "This is that miscreant scheme for sowing discord between us." "Be not anxious, elder brother," said Liu Pei. "I pledge myself not to be guilty of such an infamous crime." Lu Pu again and again expressed his gratitude, and Liu Pei kept him for a time. They remained talking and drinking wine till late. Said the other two brothers, "Why not kill him?" Liu Pei said, "Because TsʻAo Mêng-Tê fears that Lu and I may attack him. He is trying to separate us and get us to swallow each other, while he steps in and takes the advantage. Is there any other reason?" Quan nodded assent, but Chang Fei said, "I want to get him out of the way lest he trouble us later." "That is not what a noble man should do," said his elder brother. Soon the messenger was dismissed and returned to the capital with a reply from Liu Pei. The letter only said the plan would be made later, but the messenger, when he saw TsʻAo, told him the story of Liu Pei's pledge to Lu Pu. Then said TsʻAo, "The plan has failed, what next?" Hsüch replied, "I have another trick called the tiger and the wolf, in which the tiger is made to gobble up the wolf." "Let us hear it," said TsʻAo. "Send to Yuan Shu to say that Liu Pei has sent up a secret memorial that he wishes to subdue the southern districts. Shu will be angry and attack him. Then you will order Pei to dispose of Shu, and so set them destroying each other. Lu Pu will certainly think that is his chance and turn traitor. This is the tiger-wolf trick." TsʻAo thought this good and sent the messenger, and also sent a false edict to Liu Pei. When this came, the messenger was received with all the ceremonies, and the edict ordered the capture of Yuan Shu. After the departure of the bearer, Liu called Mai Chu, who pronounced it a ruse. "It may be," said his master, "but the royal command is not to be disobeyed." So the army was prepared, and the day fixed. Sun Fêng-Hsien said that a trusty man must be left on guard, and Pei asked which of his brothers would undertake this task. "I will guard the city," said Chang Fei. "I am constantly in need of your advice, so how can we part?" "I will guard the city," said Chang Fei. "You will fail," said Pei. "After one of your drinking bouts you will get savage and flog the soldiers. Beside, you are rash and will not listen to anyone's advice. I shall be uneasy all the time. Henceforth I drink no more wine. I will not beat the soldiers, and I will always listen to advice," said Fei. "I fear the mouth does not correspond to the heart," said Mai Chu. "I have followed my elder brother these many years and never broken faith. Why should you be contemptuous?" said Fei. Yuan Ter said, "Though you say this, I do not feel quite satisfied. I will order friend Yuan Lung to help you and keep you sober. Then you will not make any mistake." Chern Tang was willing to undertake this duty, and the final orders were given. The army of 3 legions, horse and foot, left Hsüch and marched toward Nanyang. When Yuan Shu heard that a memorial had been presented proposing to take possession of this district, he broke out into abuse of Liu Pei. "You weaver of mats! You plaiter of straw shoes! You have been smart enough to get possession of a large district and elbow your way into the ranks of the nobles. I was just going to attack you, and now you dare to scheme against me. How I detest you!" So he at once gave orders to prepare an army of 10 legions under Kai Ling to attack Hsüch. The armies met at Hsüch, where Liu Pei was encamped in a plain with hills behind and a stream on his flank, for his army was small. Kai Ling, his opponent, was a native of Shantung. He used a very heavy three-edged sword. After he had made his camp, he rode out and began abusing his opponents. "Liu Pei, you rustic bumpkin, how dare you invade this land? I have a decree ordering me to destroy the minister who behaves improperly. If you oppose, you will be assuredly punished," replied Pei. Kai angrily rode out brandishing his weapon, but Guan Yu cried, "Fool, do not attempt to fight," and rode out to meet him. Then they two fought, and after 30 bouts neither had an advantage. Then Kai cried out for a rest. So Quan turned his horse away, rode back to his own array, and waited for him. When the moment came to renew the combat, Kai sent out one of his officers to take his place. But Quan said, "Tell Kai Ling to come. I must settle with him who shall be cock and who shall be hen. You are a reputationless leader and unworthy to fight with our general," replied the officer, Hsüch. This reply angered Quan, who made just one attack on Hsüch and brought him to the ground. At this success, Liu Pei urged on the army, and Kai Ling's men were defeated. They retired to the mouth of the Hsüch River and declined all challenges. However, many of their men came privately into Liu Pei's camp to try to do what mischief they could, and many, so found, were slain. But the armies will be left facing each other while we relate what happened in Hsüch. After Liu Pei had started on his expedition, Chang Fei placed his colleague and helper in charge of the administration of Hsüch, keeping military affairs under his own supervision. After thinking over the matter for some time, he gave a banquet to all the military officers, and when they were all seated, he made a speech. "Before my brother left, he bade me keep clear of the wine cup for fear of accidents. Now, gentlemen, you may drink deep today, but from tomorrow wine is forbidden, for we must keep the city safe. So take your fill." And with this, he and all his guests rose to drink together. The wine-bearer came to one TsʻAo, who declined it, saying he never drank as he was forbidden of heaven. "What, a fighting man not drink wine?" said the host. "I want you to take just one cup." TsʻAo was afraid to offend, so he drank. Now the host drank huge goblets with all his guests on every hand, and so swallowed a huge quantity of liquor. He became quite intoxicated. Yet he would drink more and insisted on a cup with every guest. It came to the turn of TsʻAo, who declined. "Really, I cannot drink," said Pao. "You drank just now, why refuse this time?" Chang Fei pressed him, but still TsʻAo resisted. Then Fei, in his drunken madness, lost control of his temper and said, "If you disobey the orders of your general, you shall be beaten." And he called in his guards. Here Hsüch Yuanlong interfered, reminding him of the strict injunctions of his brother. "You civilians attend to your civil business and leave us alone," said Fei. The only way of escape for the guest was to beg remission, and he did so, but added, "Sir, if you saw my son-in-law's face, you would pardon me." "Who is your son-in-law?" "Lu Pu. I did not mean to have you really beaten, but if you think to frighten me with Lu Pu, I will. I will beat you as if I was beating him," said Fei. The guests interposed to beg him off, but their drunken host was obdurate, and the unhappy guest received 50 blows. Then, at the earnest prayers of the others, the remainder of the punishment was remitted. The banquet came to an end, and the beaten man went away burning with resentment. That night, he sent a letter to Hsüch relating the insults he had received from Chang Fei. The letter told Lu Pu of the prefect's absence, and proposed that a sudden raid should be made that very night before Chang Fei had recovered from his drunken fit. Lu Pu at once summoned Hsüch Kung and told him, "This is only a place to occupy temporarily," said Kung. "If you can seize Hsüch, do so. It is a good chance. Lu Pu got ready at once and soon on the way with half a company, ordering Fêng-Hsien Kung to follow him with the main body. Cao Shun was to follow him. Hsüch being only about 40 li away, one gets there almost as soon as one is mounted, and Lu Pu was under the walls at the 4th watch. It was clear moonlight. No one on the ramparts saw him. Pu came up close to the wall and called out, "Liu Pei's secret messenger has arrived." The guards on the wall were TsʻAo's men, and they called him. He came, and when he saw who was there, he ordered the gates to be opened. Lu Pu gave the secret signal, and the soldiers entered shouting. Chang Fei was in his apartment sleeping off the fumes of wine. His servants hastened to arouse him, and told him an enemy had got the gates open and was in the city. Chang savagely got into his armor and laid hold of his mighty spear, but as he was mounting his horse at the gate, the soldiers came up. He rushed at them, but being still half intoxicated made but a poor fight. Lu Pu, knowing his prowess, did not press him hard, and Chang Fei made his way, with a small escort, to the east gate, and there went out, leaving his brother's family to their fate. TsʻAo, seeing Chang had but a very small force and was still half drunk as well, came in pursuit. Fei saw who it was and was mad with rage. He galloped toward him and drove him off after a few passes. He followed Pao to the moat and wounded him in the back. His frightened steed carried him into the moat, and he was drowned. Once well outside the city, Chang Fei collected his men, and they rode off toward the south. Lu Pu, having surprised the city, set himself to restore order. He put a guard over the residence of Liu Pei, so that no one should disturb the family. Chang Fei with his few followers went to his brother's camp and told his story of treachery and surprise. All were greatly distressed. Success is not worth rejoicing over. Failure is not worth grieving over, said Liu Pei with a sigh. Where are our sisters? Asked Quan. They shared the fate of the city. Liu Pei nodded his head and was silent. Quan Yu with an effort controlled his reproaches and said, "What did you say when you promised to guard the city, and what orders did our brother give you? Now the city is lost, and therewith our sisters-in-law. Have you done well?" Chang Fei was overwhelmed by remorse. He drew his sword to kill himself. He raised the cup in pledge, none might say nay. Remorseful, drew the sword himself to slay. Chang Fei's fate will be told in the next chapter.